The real story of the first year of the Donald Trump presidency has been his focus abroad and his focus on things that weren't based off of what's helping U.S. workers. The only American first agenda that he has had is America millionaires and billionaires first and America families last. And also working vigilantly on overseas. I remember Republicans telling me every day on TV, why are we spending money to rebuild Iraq when we need to rebuild the schools in our own neighborhood? How does Donald Trump answer that now? I think that's the real answer to what's happened in the first year, is his focus has been there instead of here.
Priorities, brother, priorities. And that's what people in the polling are overwhelmingly saying.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote podcast. It's 1 year of Donald Trump here in Washington, D.C. The trumpets are playing. The king is back. Here we go. The great thorn. Anyway, hey, Mike, how you doing?
Happy anniversary, America. Yeah. How you feeling about it, Chuck?
How you feeling about it now, motherfucker?
Can you do it for another 3 years?
Ooh, I shouldn't say my lovely wife. I'm going to put her out there. She's like, can we really deal with this for 3 more years? And I was like, hell, I guess. Fuck.
We don't have
Don't
a
blame
choice.
me. I didn't vote for him.
At least for the moment, we don't have a choice. I was watching this Davos speech just this morning. We're recording on Wednesday.
Whoa. Can you, before you talk about the Davos speech, could you do a public service for our listeners?
Yeah.
Where's Davos? Maybe
Davos
it's for me.
is in Switzerland. I'm sorry. Davos is this gathering that has been happening since the 70s of titans of industry, global financiers, heads of state, kind of all the movers and shakers who make the whole world go round, gather every January in the snows of Switzerland, where it's very hard to get to, so nobody else can be there. They all fly in on their jets and quietly talk in a small town in Switzerland. Now, of course, it's all televised and the whole world watches it. So there was an amazing talk by a Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, yesterday, which really I think was a profound moment in U.S. and probably world history, where he basically declared the era of global hegemony over.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
It's a big word for you, I know, Chuck.
Hegemony.
Yeah. What it means is the American superpower days are over. It's now, America is no longer viewed by our allies, our friends, or the world as the sole superpower. We are now entering a world of multilateralism, meaning there are rising powers to balance out America's what they would consider undue influence. And the fact that we have turned on our allies and our friends is driving a very, very big change. And it's going to have huge impacts, as big as I think, without hyperbole here. I think it's going to impact as much or more than the fall of the wall in 1988 when the Soviet Union collapsed. So big changes are afoot. If you felt like things are changing a lot this last year or this last decade, you're right. This is what's happening. This coming change, Chuck, is upon us. So what are your thoughts? How are you feeling about it, man?
Well, I don't know about the Davoses or the Switzerlands, but I know that he seems like a mad king right now. And we're going to go back because I want to hear your hot takes from the Davos speech. But for the last 24 hours, I've spent time on almost every TV network talking about what the first year means. And to me, in one word, it meant chaos. And I'm one of the few Democrats who give Donald Trump credit for lots of things. Like Donald Trump knew how to get reelected. He knew how to take advantage of Democrats' weakness. He leaned into a message around immigration and making people's lives better and lowering prices for everyday Americans on day one. He said all the right things. He even did some of the right things. He closed the U.S. border. That's a good thing. He's limited folks coming in. Only 180 border crossings in the last year, 180,000, Mike. Under Joe Biden, it was 1.5 million border encounters. That's 1.5 million to 180,000. That's a dramatic shift. Now, if you just talked about that and maybe got a little extra money for ICE to go really find bad Venezuelan gang members, I'm sure there's some of them around. That's who I won't deport it. But he's so overreached on this bullshit that now he gets no credit for the little bit of stuff that he actually probably got right. And so that's what'll be his legacy right now in the first year, is that he is almost like a Democrat. He has captured victory from the jaws of defeat, or whatever that is backwards. But he could just leave it alone and keep victory. Right, there it is, the other way. But if he'd have just like been quasi-normal or just a little bit crazy and talked about gas and groceries more, he'd be winning now.
I think things would be a lot different. It's not just what Donald Trump does, it's the way he does it, right? And that's that. I think, to your point, you're exactly right. It's he has this need. People are like, why? Like Greenland, yeah, there's an argument for like we need a lot of these rare earth materials. We need a lot of the copper. We need a lot of the zinc. We need a lot of the silver out of Greenland, and as a matter of national security. But you don't go to your friends and basically say, give us your stuff or we're going to invade you. Like, and look, I bring this up a lot. A lot of my friends on the left get upset about this. Barack Obama deported a hell of a lot more Latinos at this point in his second term than Donald Trump did. A lot more. He didn't do it with tanks. He didn't do it with masked thugs knocking down church doors to drag people out. Like, there's a way to do this. There's a way to govern. There's a way to be presidential. There's a way to uphold, I think, at least the ideals of America without humiliating and dehumanizing and terrorizing people. Terror. But that's the goal. That's what Trump's trying to do. The terror is the point. The intimidation is the point. He's not worried about the policy, whether it works or not. He wants violence. He wants conflict. He wants fear as a way of driving his accumulation of power.
You're right. And he wants to talk about this. He wants us to talk about law and order, immigrants. He had the press conference for all of you who were watching for an hour and 45 minutes, this ridiculous thing in the press office there in front of the press, holding up pictures of gang members. Like, we got these people. We're going to make you safe. Now, look, you couple what Mike just said about immigration and ICE and all the craziness going on with this Greenland thing. I said this yesterday on Jake Tapper, and it kind of came to me sitting there. Y'all know me well enough that all of this ain't an act. I do not go to any TV appearance with written down notes. I come up with shit sitting there just like we come up with this podcast sitting here. But yesterday when I was sitting with Jake Tapper, he said, what about Greenland? And I just thought about it for a moment, and I want your reaction to this, Mike. A lot of Americans can kind of wrap their head around a Venezuela. They may think it's wrong. They may think, what the hell are we doing there? But they're like, Venezuela. I've heard about Venezuelan gangs, dictators, socialist government. Seems like a bad thing. We went down there and we're trying to help them. Maybe that kind of could make some sense to some folks. Kind of get that. Iran. So we're trying to keep them from getting a nuclear bomb. They're in the Middle East. They're around all these other crazy Middle Eastern people. We bombed their nuclear plant. Now they're protesting their own dictator. We're trying to do some things to help them. They can kind of wrap their head around Iran. But when you talk about little old Greenland, folks see that as us just being a fucking bully. Like, Greenland ain't messing with nobody. They got a democracy. They're part of all the things. Now, people don't know all of the nuances of the NATO alliance and all the North American trade agreement bullshit. They just don't know. But they know Greenland ain't never bothered nobody. And it just don't feel right for us to be bullying our ass over there, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you put it very, very well. The arguments that they're making, like the setup for Venezuela was like, okay, they were running drugs like out of these little, motorboats. What a bunch of horse shit. Like, nobody believed that because it wasn't true. It was a predicate to set up the same frame he always does. These are bad people, so we've got to do violent things to them to take them out. That's what he's doing to the immigrants here in this community, legal and undocumented. And he's also going to start doing it to political opposition, right? We're already rounding up U.S. citizens. So this is Trump's ploy, is just constantly show strength, use violence, use fear, use intimidation as a tactic, make Americans with that support him feel more powerful. And now he's turned that same tactic onto our allies. And yeah, you're right. This Greenland, you just put it beautifully. It's a bullying tactic, but it's something that we're going to have to get used to. And I think what's the most unfortunate is a month ago, this wasn't really in the conversation in any meaningful way. Then he talks about invading them. Then he talks about breaking up NATO. Now he's talking about giving them, $1 million each, Greenlanders, to buy them, and if they declare their independence from Denmark. Then suddenly these conversations start happening in Europe about, okay, well, how do we appease this guy and give the United States Greenland and make this all work so that we don't end up violating NATO? This is dangerous. This is negotiating with a terrorist. And this is what Neville Chamberlain did with Hitler, and just constantly trying to appease him so that he wouldn't get more aggressive. It never worked. It never worked. There's no appeasing Donald Trump. If you don't stand up to him, he will keep taking more and more and more. And that's the real crisis of the moment, is at some point you've got to draw the line in the sand. And frankly, we've passed that. We're way past that point. That's why what Canada said was so important. That's why even Macron from France standing up is so important, is what they're saying is no more. The line has been crossed. Europe knows its history. When you appease a tyrant, it only delays the inevitable. And so you're seeing troops, not just from Denmark, but from other European nations, now heading off to Greenland as a show of force, saying, if you violate NATO's agreement, if you invade Greenland, you're going to have to fight Europe. And the fact that 1 year into this, Chuck, we're talking about going to war with our closest allies. At least in the city of Troy with the Trojan horse, they were suckered into taking this gift, with a bunch of soldiers inside this hollow wooden horse. We did this to ourselves. Like, this is going to go down in history as the biggest own goal, the biggest self-pantsing in world history. Is Americans allowed this. They supported this. They enthusiastically enabled this behavior, hollowed out our institutions, dealt with the humiliation, laughed like he was an entertainer while he's gutting everything about this country and what it's always stood for, and made a mockery of us, not just as a political entity, but as a people with our character. We're an embarrassment.
The question is, people see this, and people had some idea. There's no way they had an idea of everything that he would do, and they still voted for him. 70 million Americans voted for this guy. Y'all all need to remember that. Now, the question I have for you, Mike, and what I deal with, I don't say deal with, I just think about it, right? Like, I listen to you, I listen to other folks try to talk about how crazy a time we live in. And I think about regular folks out there. Me and you ain't regular folks. Like, me and you have a nice life. We're going to be fine. But a lot of folks out there every day are just figuring it out. We came from those folks. We understand. I think that's why we appreciate what we do got, or what we do have. And I wonder, what's the tipping point? And is it, if when the war really happens with our allies and somebody actually gets in some kind of, like, if there's a bomb drop somewhere, is it the stock market crashing? Like, if the stock market and folks start losing their retirement, like, I think that there's 30% of the electorate, 30 to 35, based off of my 30 years of experience, that are going to be with him no matter what. They're on Team
Right.
Red. They love Team Red. They're going to be with him.
Right.
Same with the people on the left and Team Blue. But I do think that there are people in the middle that voted for him who thought Joe Biden was old and fleckless and weak and like, what the hell are we doing? He's not even in charge and all of those things. So I've been wondering, what's the tipping point? What is the breaking point? Sure, we'll see some breaking point in the midterms. We have seen that 2 months ago in Virginia and New Jersey. You start seeing a pattern. I see it coming. We've talked about a wave that's definitely going to be here. How big it is yet to be determined, just based off of historical data. But you have seen as much of this from the right as I have from the left. What do you think is the final straw, in your opinion? I know you don't know, but what, in your opinion, you think will be the final straw?
I think we've passed a point, Chuck, where he's already no longer politically viable. The two polls came out last week. One was the Wall Street Journal poll that showed he's got 92% amongst Republican support still. And the CNN poll came out a couple days before that, showing he had 85, 87% support. Still very high numbers with Republicans. but they're not as high, even as high as they are, they're not as high as they need to be to keep his base cohesive. And here's the real flashing danger point for him and the Republicans. They're at historic lows with independents. Like they've already passed the point. So
I think in
else,
the CNN poll, Mike, was it like 26 or 36% or something?
It was like
independents?
Lower. It was like mid-20s.
I think it was 26.
Just unbelievably bad numbers, which explains why he's in a historically low range. So I don't know that it can go much lower. Trump's approvals can go much lower. I think they can probably, kiss that 33, 32. He's sitting at like 36, 37 right now. Maybe he goes down another 2 or 3 points, but it ain't going to go below that, Chuck. It's just not. Like some of these people are like, all right, let's go raid Greenland. All right, let's just go to civil war. Let's just blow each other up. Like they've already given up on the idea of America and they've sold their souls to the MAGA cult. Like that's not going to break. So I don't think there's going to be any one thing. I think what's going to happen is all of those voters that were in the middle, all those swing voters that were like, things aren't good under Biden-Harris, I'm not going to go with her for whatever reasons, whatever the rationale, those voters came back in 2025 in big numbers. Like they swung back within months. Like they're like, this is the crazy. Oh, we remember the crazy. This is why we got rid of him the first time. And so now they're coming back, but is it too late? Might be, but I don't know that he's going to lose a whole lot more support than he already has lost because it's not behaving like a normal political party, brother. This is like, it's a cult. It's a cult. If you think Donald Trump has some grand plan, anybody watching that Davos speech, you're watching like your grandpa losing his mind. He's not mentally okay. He's just not anymore. You could argue, oh, it's just Trump being Trump. He's just a little bit, peculiar and quirky. This was rambling, nutty, crazy, off teleprompter. He confused Greenland with Iceland. He's lost. He's bonkers. And I don't know what else to say, but they'd rather follow a man who's struggling with senility. He's senile. Rather than hand the baton over to the other party where there's capable, competent people, because they've somehow believed that they're so demonic that attacking our own best allies is somehow better than letting the Democrats subsidize healthcare. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Last night, I got to hear a little bit of what their messaging they want it to be. Get this and stay seated. I was on News Nation, and it was recapping the 1 year of Donald Trump's special, hosted by Chris Cuomo, with special guest Sean Spicer, Stephen A. Smith, and yours truly, your favorite Mexican redneck, all in the four squares of hell on News Nation. And when I could get a word in edgewise between Sean Spicer and Stephen A. Smith, Sean Spicer's whole argument around this affordability contrast with Democrats that I was making, and even Stephen A. to a certain degree, Stephen A. kept talking about affluent people, and I didn't understand what affluent people meant. But Sean Spicer kept talking about how much cheaper gas is for everyday Americans. And he's right. Gas has went down. And it doesn't matter. And if I'm arguing this, I'm losing. But gas was on its way down under Joe Biden. It's just continued to go down. And it may go down more, who knows? But that is an argument that they want to use as a determining factor of what everyday affordability is like for people, along with a raging stock market that's had record highs and all of that. And I told all of them on TV last night, I said, I would caution all of you that 2 years ago, I sat here and said unemployment was at an all-time low. The stock market was at an all-time high, and we had passed an infrastructure bill that was going to repave every road and rebuild every bridge, and Americans could give two shits about that.
Ding. Exactly right, Chuck Rocha. Exactly. And the reason why, brother, here's what no one's talking about. Our currency is collapsing. Even if the prices stay the same, or let me put it this way. If the stock market goes up 17%, has a great year, but the currency has gone down 30% in value in the last 5 years, you haven't made money. You've lost 13%. And the American public knows that. When they go into a restaurant and order a salad and it costs them $25, that's not that same salad cost them $12.50, $13 last year or 2 years ago. They're not fools. They see that. That's real money to them. The value of our currency is collapsing.
Can you dig a little deeper there? Now, why would the dollar lose value?
Oh, brother, that's a whole different episode I could talk in great detail about. But basically, 1/3 of our entire federal budget is going to interest payments on the debt, just interest. Okay. So what we're doing is, when we started doing this during the pandemic, it started under Trump, was dramatically inflating the dollar. Remember when Trump sent all those checks that he wanted to sign with his name on it to show people that money is just sending Americans money, and then we stimulus the money under Biden again? We started to flood the economy during the pandemic with cash because nobody was working. So to keep the economy going, we inflated the economy. The problem is, and that's just a part of it, but that amount of debt, coupled with our political inability to cut government services, has created an unsustainable currency. The dollar literally cannot be the same when you add trillions and trillions of new dollars out into the economy. Prices are invariably going to go up. There were supply chain problems. Yes, those have largely been remedied. It's not a supply chain problem. It's a currency crisis. And here's what people really don't understand. Everybody's saying, oh, Venezuela, it was all about the oil. Trump said it was about the oil. But that's not the whole story. The dollar is the reserve currency of the world. This is going to get a little bit nerdy, but it's very important. What that means largely is that all of the oil in the world, all of the oil trades on all of the markets in the world are executed in US dollars. Because it has been so strong since the end of the Second World War, that has created the balance of the entire world's monetary system. Everybody trusts in the dollar. That has given us this incredibly high standard of living. This rise of the BRICS nation, BRIC, right, is Brazil, Russia, India, China have created a group to start creating a currency that challenges the dollar because they are tired of the US running the entire global economy. So the reason we went to Venezuela is because they control 20% of the oil reserves, not because we can bring new oil online in the next weeks, months, or even years. It'll take a decade before they even start producing better and more higher quality oil. It's because we can ensure that the trade for the oil that they're already producing happens in US dollars. It's propping up our currency. That's what Greenland is about. It's about the mineral rights. It's about the protection of the underlying currency. And so when you understand that, that's what's happening. This is kind of the US government being desperate and taking these measures to keep our currency propped up, because if we do start to see other countries in the world going off the dollar system, which is a good possibility now, very good, the US standard of living is going to start falling dramatically and very quickly, which means our currency, our dollar, is going to start falling in value and prices are going to start going up dramatically. So it doesn't matter. Remember, the Democrats were talking, there's a big fight over the price of eggs in November. Yeah, that's a part of it. But everything relatively is more expensive. Everything is, because the dollar's value is getting weaker.
That makes sense. And then the American public are looking for somebody to blame, and it's going to get way worse before it gets better.
That's exactly right. And so what Trump is trying to do, again, with part of his advisors, is the only way to stabilize all of this, especially as we enter the digital age, is to go capture resources. So you've got to go grab other people's oil. You got to go grab, Venezuela's oil. You got to go grab Greenland's silver, or, rare earth materials, because that's what is the guts of all of these AI data centers that we're building. You can't build solar panels without silver. You can't build electric cars. None of this stuff that we're trying to get off of the old economy, we still need the hardwiring to make the whole system work. And there's just a limited supply, and whoever controls that supply is going to control the global economy. That's the foot race we're in with China right now. That's what's going on.
No, and I think that's like, there's nobody understands what you just said, except for a small handful of people. But what they do understand, and now they're looking for somebody to blame, is all of that. I work in politics every day. I have no idea what you just talked about, but it totally makes sense. But I'm here with you. I trust you, A, that you're telling me the right thing. And then B, as somebody who's now a globetrotter around the world with folks who deal with the dollar, I'm understanding more of this. And I think that this piece of this is what Democrats have to make folks understand through the midterms. And as we head into 28, is the power of our country has been that folks knew we were the power without us having to prove it every day, and that we were the ones that stability for the world means something. Knowing that you have a stable agent, a stable dollar, a stable government, a stable military, and it's like the big boy in the corner you never want to poke because you can see how big he is. That's the U.S. You can see how strong he is. You don't mess with him, but he never has to get up and pound his chest. He knows he's that big, but now he's been called out, and he ain't that big.
That's what Carney did. He said the emperor has no clothes. That's what happened. He pointed out to him and said, you know what? And he basically said that through Václav Havel's speeches. This has all been a charade. America is not as powerful as they think they are. Once people stop putting that sign in the window and stop playing the game, and people stand up and say, America's not the global superpower anymore. We have our own power. Everything changes. That's why it was so profound. That's why this moment was so significant. And I think it's going to have dramatic rippling effect because, look, brother, if you pull out a dollar bill from your wallet right now, it says, it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Who in the world has faith in the United States right now? Nobody trusts us. There's no precious metals backing up the dollar. It's all based off of a mindset that America is the global dominant economic power. And while we are, what Carney said was, America's on the decline. And if we start behaving differently and we quit propping them up, if he wants to attack us with tariffs, we've got a lot of weapons at our disposal too. We're holding all of their debt. If America invades Greenland, you know what's going to happen? The very next day, Europe is going to start dumping all of our debt, flooding the market, and destroy the dollar. Destroy it. And they've got that capacity, especially because China's holding a lot of our debts too. If they drive the price of that debt down, will they suffer economically? Of course. But they're going to suffer militarily. So they're like, we're not just going to stand here and take this bullshit. We will drive the cost of the dollar down so low, you won't be able to feed your soldiers in Greenland. Those conversations are happening with bankers in Europe, I guarantee you, because it's the best bulwark against this kind of aggression. It's not militarily. Europe can't, they can hold us off for a little bit, but not long. But what they will absolutely do is bring us to our knees economically, and they can do it.
And think about all of those things with the addition of AI and how AI levels the playing field in lots of places. Sure, lots of third world countries don't have enough power to generate AI, but AI now can be used. We used to own all of that. We had all the technology and all the brains. You can just look at your cell phone now and put things in on AI and get all the answers that you want that only we used to have. And now that's leveling the playing field. All of this, folks, should keep in mind. Now, how we talk about it as we move into the midterms, how folks really start understanding that the crisis is at hand. People start understanding the instability that he's creating, other than he's just crazy. Oh, he's just being Trump. You know how he is, and these coddling Republican House members who empower him and embolden him. I'm watching to see when does he really become a lame duck, if at all. Because what he will have for all of you political nerds, Donald Trump may have $1 billion to spend in the midterm elections in his super PAC, which is crazy to think about. Because folks are dumping money into his super PAC, whether it's for maybe pardons or we're this thing or that thing or building a West Wing, like they're going to have unlimited money. And they're going to run ads that says gas was this price when he got here and gas is this price now. That we've deported 285 million undocumented evil immigrants. We have closed the borders. Promises made, promises kept. And Democrats, we have to have a response to that. We can easily say, and I know many will, and it's not exactly wrong to say we ain't that, and he's crazy, and we're not the crazy person. We are all about stability and getting back to some norms. And I think that gets us to a certain point. But if you have this much of our U.S. government that's being torn down, there's also an opportunity to rebuild it in a better way. I think about it in this way. Folks are always asking me, Chuck, you're talking about affordability. You're talking about the price of all this stuff is where we should live at. Well, what can Democrats do to affect the price of things or help American families? When I say as a federal office, it's hard, but you could figure out a way to work with Republicans in the Senate and at the White House to get something passed that could help whatever the issue is that's helping average people. And these are the two examples I'll give you. Two examples are Mikey Sherrill was sworn into office this week. For you listening, it was last week by the time we get this up. And the first thing Mikey Sherrill did as the new governor of New Jersey, as she said she would do on day one, is she signed an executive order and she froze utility bill costs in New Jersey. They cannot go up anymore because she signed a bill saying that they couldn't and said that she would take on the price of utilities. That's helping real people immediately. And now she can point to doing that. In Virginia, Spanberger, who also ran on affordability, the first thing she did was sign an executive order to make daycare free for certain folks and to help with the price of daycare for families with children. These are examples of something Donald Trump could have done on day one, other than what he's been focused on. The real story of the first year of the Donald Trump presidency has been his focus abroad and his focus on things that weren't based off of what's helping U.S. workers. The only American first agenda that he has had is America millionaires and billionaires first and America families last. And also working vigilantly on shit overseas. And I give him credit for being focused on overseas stuff. Whether it was stupid or not, the American people told Donald Trump they were tired of foreign invasions, of us stepping into wars, us bailing out other countries. I remember Republicans telling me every day on TV, why are we spending money to rebuild Iraq when we need to rebuild the schools in our own neighborhood? How does Donald Trump answer that now? I think that's the real answer to what's happened in the first year, is his focus has been there instead of here.
Priorities, brother, priorities. And that's what people in the polling are overwhelmingly saying. And that's a very critical frame. What you're pointing out is exactly right. First of all, everything that he's doing is now broadly unpopular. But what really cements it, what really drives it home, Chuck, to your point, is the prioritization. It's like, why is he talking about invading Greenland when the cost of living is going through the roof? That's why we elected you, not to bully our friends, not to turn on Europe. So there's this environment that is developing where there's just this chaos. There's an incompetence. There's this, and I think a lot of people are going to be reminded of why they voted against him in 2020 in the first place. Going, oh yeah, we remember this craziness. This is nuts. Like, we don't want any part of this. And so the lack of priority, the lack of focus, I think is going to drive a lot of the sentiment downward.
Yeah, Mike, I think you're exactly right. And as we think about what messaging we see the parties using moving into the midterms, I think that's going to be a big part of seeing how there's so much shit that you can use against the president and the party. It'll be interesting to see how they frame that. But I also want to talk about now last week, we've been talking about this Texas Senate race, and I'd be remiss. And as I have said on social media now, for everybody to know, I'm helping James Talarico and his team down in Texas. And last week, he kicked off his Spanish language and English language Latino advertising. For all of you out there, you should know that the first ads were spent on Univision during the soccer game of Mexico versus Panama. And I was really happy to work with him on that. Hat tip to James Aldrete and lots of folks down in Texas. But, part of the game in Texas is prioritizing people and showing up to have the conversation. And I think that him doing that was a big deal. And I love that we got to roll out our first ad during the soccer game, Mike, because somebody told me Latinos like the soccer, Michael.
A little bit. I mean, good timing, good thinking, really, really smart. I think this is a good play for what's going on here. And again, I'm fascinated. It's going to be great to have you in that race too. So you can share with us as much inside information as you possibly can, given the fact that you got to be as quiet as you possibly can too about what you're doing. But look, this is going to be, I think, one of the defining races, not just in the country this year. I think it's going to set a narrative for who Latinos are going forward in this era of inaffordability, of cost of living, of swinging between both parties. I think Talarico brings a really fresh message to this whole thing. And it is good to see the symbolic gesture to be not just in Spanish, but on soccer. I have full expectation it will grow beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
There will be an agenda that he's going to be talking about, I'm sure. But this is a good start. This is a great way to get the ball going. Give him a hat tip to the team.
I'll keep everybody updated. We're excited to be on his team. And I'm going to try to get him to come on the podcast so me and you can ask him questions and talk to him about the way he feels about Latinos positioning his messaging and what he's been doing. He's been raising a bunch of money and catching a lot around the country. Also this morning, I had a conversation with one Senator Gallego, Michael, and he said that he is very much down to do the Latino vote town hall. Probably we're looking at April. They have a 2-week recess in April, Mike. So maybe we figure out the right place to do that. So we've got that on the books for everybody. And I think that will be a big opportunity to talk about the Latino agenda.
Yeah.
The Latino agenda that we've all been talking about. So I think that's 100%. The real key.
That's exciting. That's good stuff.
For all of you at home, 1 year of Donald Trump doesn't mean nothing to me and Mike Madrid other than it's another year that's gone by that we need to be talking about all the things that are good in this world and all the things that are bad in this world. And we will continue to speak truth to power and continue to make sure that you know, as our loyal listeners, where the Latino voters stand on lots of this stuff. Every week, we try to bring you this podcast, unfiltered, unadulterated. That's my word today. And next week, we're going to talk to Mike Madrid about my upcoming trip in February to Oaxaca. Because, Mike, I need to know where to go eat in Oaxaca's.
Oh, anywhere in Oaxaca is amazing food. Mole, you're going to eat the mole down there. Wow, good for you. When are you going to Oaxaca?
Valentine's weekend.
Oh, soon. My gosh. No keeping you down. We got to do a little live, got to have a live recording with Chuck in Oaxaca.
I'm just going down on Friday for Ebony's birthday. We're going to come back on Monday. We're just doing a weekend in Oaxaca as a dry run because I'd love to try to figure out in my older years where I'm going to live. And Ebony thinks we might live in Mexico. So I got to figure out the taxes down there with you. So we'll figure that out. I know you got a house down there.
Mexico's amazing, brother. Might be the best place. Best place to be at the moment, anyway.
Thank y'all for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Call your mama if you're lucky enough to still have her. We'll see y'all next week.